Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. It has been a hot minute, so just a quick update. We have baby goats on our property, so I've been busy milking now that the babies are weaned off, so I've been kind of experimenting with baked goods and different kinds of cheese recipes. We've done some family vacations, and I launched a 30-day homesteading challenge over on Facebook. I'm actually thinking of redoing those videos and posting them here, so if that's something you're interested in, let me know down in the comments and I can re-script it so it would match this platform. But pretty much what I did is, because homesteading is such a wide area of different kinds of things, you know, if you think of it as an umbrella, each different point has like a different topic, you know, whether it's composting, gardening, sewing, rainwater collection, permaculture, energy efficiency. There's all these different kinds of aspects to homesteading, and when you get started it can feel kind of overwhelming. So I did just kind of brief overviews about each one of those topics, so you guys kind of all have an idea of what would be the most interesting to you, so you know what to research on and maybe enact on in the future. So if that's something you'd be interested in, let me know in the comments. I could definitely re-script and refilm that. I also went through and harvested all of my meat birds and canned them, so now I have shelf-stable chicken on my pantry shelf, which I love. Easy grab and go for my family. We fit in some family vacations over the summer as well, and then of course my garden is growing strong, and I've been harvesting and canning like crazy, which is what we're here to talk about today. I want to talk about this 2025 gardening season over the summer for me, what's worked, what didn't, and what I would do next year. If homesteading is interesting to you and you're curious about knowing more about it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'll be uploading more frequently, and I kind of go over tips and tricks and DIY stuff all over homesteading. I'm not niche down at all over here on this channel. And without further ado, let's get into it. First of all, I have a chaos garden. If you don't know what a chaos garden is, that is essentially when I let everything kind of go wild. All the native plants, I just let them go. Sometimes I'll throw in some vegetable plants or flowers or whatever, and I just let it go. It's like survival of the fittest. It's the Hunger Games of gardening. It's whatever grows, whatever survives, right? And I like doing this just because it's kind of fun to see how nature plays out, and it brings in a lot of pollinators. It's really good for my environment to let the native plants grow, but I can't let the whole thing take over my garden, which is essentially what it's trying to do right now. Last year it wasn't nearly this bad, but I have raised beds and I used to have pathways, and right now my chaos garden is kind of taking over that whole area. Some of those plants are taller than me, which no, I'm not that tall. I'm about 5 foot, but when it's starting to overshadow my pathways and I can't really get over on that side of my garden bed anymore. So I think next year what I'm going to do is I'm just going to downsize it a little bit. I'm not going to completely get rid of it because, like I said, I really do enjoy having it, and it does bring in a lot of the pollinators, and it's good to have some native plants, you know, growing. But I need to kind of try to contain it a little bit better next year, so that way it's not overpowering everything else on that side of the garden. Speaking of weeds, I do have more weeds this year than I did last year. I didn't mulch quite as heavily this year as I did last year, and I also added some last minute plants during the springtime, which wasn't planned for. I have everything set up on a drip irrigation, and I have it set up on an auto timer, so that way when we go out of town I don't have to worry about anyone coming over and watering my garden or making it, you know, that it's not getting consistent watering and causing issues with some of my harvest. But there are sections of my garden that are not set up on an auto waterer because I added last minute things like I had said. So I did do more overhead watering this season than I normally do, and we're just in a really weedy area. It's super windy where I live, so everything's always blowing in, and I tried my best to keep up, you know, my garden beds themselves I'm able to usually keep up with, but everything that's on the ground, all of my pathways that I did have heavily mulched, started getting some weeds pulled through. And at the beginning of the season I was able to keep up with it, but as everything went on and we had family vacations and we're having baby goats and milking and we have all these other projects going on, it just did not get taken care of. But even though my garden isn't exactly Pinterest perfect and it's not super pretty, it's still harvest worthy. I'm still harvesting plenty of produce for my family, and that's what matters most, is making sure that I can feed my family, not how pretty my garden looks. So I'm still going to count that as a win. My tomatoes have been going really good. I have tons of plants this year, and while I've been able to harvest quite a bit and eat them fresh, I've also got quite a bit in jars and on my shelves. So I've done a couple batches of salsas and tomato sauce. I did a really big batch of tomato sauce over the weekend, and a fun story actually. While I was doing this giant batch of tomato sauce, my stove decided to quit working. So in the middle of trying to can all of this, I had to move outside. I'm super grateful. We have one of those like Blackstone griddles, and the whole griddle piece comes off, and then there's just burners underneath, and it's a trio. So I had 3 burners to work with, so I was able to have my canner heating up and still be cooking down my tomato sauce and getting that all situated. And while I was successful, that was definitely an experience for me, because I have never canned outside, first off. And second off, realizing how spoiled we are having an electric stove to kind of help manage the heat levels. I mean, it's a completely different on a propane tank, and I cannot imagine doing it over an open fire like they used to do in the 1800s. And while I don't ever want to do that again without choosing to, being a little bit more prepared, because it was inconvenient not having all of my tools, not having all of these things, not having a water source right next to me. It was definitely a learning experience and humbled me a little bit on how, you know, while homesteading, generally we do this because we want to, we preserve our food because we want to, we can go to the store and we can just buy these things. Hell, nowadays we can order it online and it's delivered to us. But back in the 1800s, they didn't have that option. They had to do these things. So if something didn't work out, if they couldn't get a fire going, that wasn't an option. They had to get a fire going to start preserving their foods. And it's crazy to me that it's so much harder than you would have thought it would be. And like I said, it definitely was a learning experience, but next time I would like to choose to do that so I'm more prepared and not because I have to. And my husband fixed it. It's all fine and dandy now, but this weekend was rather interesting. You know, we were pretty much camping out of our house. I was super successful with it. Everything sealed except just one jar, and I threw it in my fridge. I will just make like pizza or something this weekend with it. But not only canning wise, I also had to like cook dinners and stuff outside too, which isn't a huge deal, but like even doing something like spaghetti, like boiling water outside, was really odd. But all super successful with my cucumbers. We were drowning in cucumbers. I was giving them to people at work. We had them every night with dinner. I pickled a whole bunch. I made relish, and then the squash bugs moved in and they started taking over, and I started to try to manage it. You know, I was picking the leaves, I was spraying the eggs, I was picking the bugs off, doing all the things that I should be doing, but they ended up taking over. What are you doing? Can you hear me talking? Is that why you're screaming? Boots, she's just right outside the window. She can hear me. Baby. Oh, I'm going to have to close this. Okay, I'm going to go see what they're screaming about first, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're fine now. Back to the cucumbers. So the squash bugs moved in, and I ended up just kind of letting them die. I guess I kind of used them as a trap plant while I stopped watering the few that like needed me to water it, like those extra plants that I added. The ones that were on drip irrigation, I kind of just let the bugs just have at them. And as I had time, I would still go out and spray them. I still have cans from last year, and I'm not super worried about what's on my shelf. While it's unfortunate that I don't have fresh cucumbers right now, I mean, I can get them locally at the farmer's market, so it's a live and learn situation. I will just have to completely clear out that area and do some more companion planting, honestly, maybe introduce some new plants next to my cucumbers. While I thought I was set up well, I clearly can rearrange a little bit. And let's move on to the green beans. I only had a handful of green beans survive this year, and while I rotate my crops just to help with the soil health and try to avoid any nutrient deficiencies in my soil, and also avoid any like overbearing insect issues that come with not rotating your crops, the places that I chose to put my green beans this year just did not thrive. I do have some plants that made it, but they were not enough for me to can like I wanted to. I was hoping for like a couple dozen plants this year to can as much as I wanted to, and I'm still looking at the farmer's market looking for fresh produce in my area that I can just because I mean, I can pick the green beans that I have on my property, but it won't be enough to can. It's just enough for me to make like a lunch with, or maybe add as a dinner side or something, which is fine. And it just shows me like next year I need to really pay attention to where I'm putting them. Maybe give them a little bit more love. Perhaps like my peppers. My peppers are going absolutely crazy. I'm drowning in peppers. I've been giving them away. I've been freezing them. I've made pickled peppers, pickled jalapenos, candied jalapenos. I am putting them in every dish that I can think of, and I still have so much to harvest. So my peppers have definitely done really well this year. And I honestly, after this video, will probably be going to harvest some just to take to work with me, because today is my Monday and I am not going to have time to go through and harvest them and can or do anything with. And like I said, I have so many that I can afford to share the love, and that's okay. We also tried doing a corn patch this year, which, I mean, it grew, but not as successfully as I would like it to. So my husband tilled a completely different area. It's completely away from my maiden garden, and it didn't get the appropriate amount of water in all places, if that makes sense. So it's on an overhead watering system, and while most of it was getting watered, there was like a third of it that didn't get watered as much as it should have, and I didn't realize that the sprinkler was messed up. So that's something for me I need to remember, that I need to go out and observe to make sure that everything's getting the appropriate amount of water, not just having faith that it's getting done because that's how I set it up. Things break, things fail, and it's my responsibility to make sure I'm observing when those kinds of things happen. So not to mention that part of it wasn't getting as much water as it should have. I didn't do any kind of weed barrier. Like I said, my husband went through and tilled it, and this was an area that we've never gardened before. So I definitely should have went through and put some kind of a weed barrier down to save the corn, I guess, so they weren't choked out. Like I said, some of it did survive, but not nearly as many that I planted. But lucky for me, I have a friend that's in town that she had a super successful corn patch, and so I went and I just bought some from her, supported her, and then that way I was able to can that and get that on my shelves. So even though my corn patch failed, I was still able to support another local farmer and fill my pantry shelves to feed my family. I haven't dried as many herbs this summer as I would have liked. Normally I have my dehydrator going all season long, but just between milking the goats and the rest of my harvest that I am like literally drowning in everything else, I just haven't had the time. But the season's not over. I still have plenty of time to get out there and harvest some of my herbs to try to save for winter. So that is on my to-do list. As far as my onions and potatoes go, my onions were really successful. I still have some that I need to harvest, and my potatoes are ready to harvest, so I'm excited to go and dig that out. It's kind of like digging for gold, and I like taking the kids out there and having them help me because they're like, wait, what are we looking for? I'm like, you're looking for potatoes, and it's just funny when they don't realize how you harvest some of these things. You know, they're used to seeing it in a bag at the grocery store, and they're like, oh, like So it's just kind of fun for them, and it's honestly fun for me too. So that's where I'm at with my harvest so far this year. I am getting ready to start my fall garden while I still have plenty of my summer plants that will be going strong for probably at least another month. I'm still going to be drowning in those tomatoes and peppers, and I am super grateful for everything that I have harvested this year. And I know that some of my downfalls is definitely the weeds and trying to control the weeds in some sort of way, and I've done pretty well in the past. And this year I just slacked off in some areas, so I know next year what I need to do and what I can do different. Tell me down in the comments below, how was your garden season went? What are some things that happened in your garden this year that you know you need to fix for next time? And if this kind of content is interesting to you and you like it, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any of my other stuff. And I will see you guys in the next one. Have a great day.